Paris in Greek mythology is a pivotal figure whose actions directly led to the famous Trojan War. He was the prince of Troy, the son of King Priam and Queen Hecuba, and his decisions brought about the eventual downfall of his city. His story is both tragic and full of moral lessons about fate, beauty, and the consequences of choices. Before Paris was born, his mother, Queen Hecuba, had a terrible dream in which she gave birth to a flaming torch that would bring about the destruction of Troy. Disturbed by the dream, King Priam consulted an oracle, who confirmed that the child would indeed lead to Troy's downfall. To prevent this prophecy from coming true, Priam ordered the infant to be exposed on Mount Ida, left to die. However, the servant tasked with leaving the baby, a man named Agelaus, could not bring himself to abandon the child. Instead, he took him in and raised him as a shepherd, far from the royal court. The most famous story involving Paris is the Judgment of Paris, which set the stage for the Trojan War. During the wedding of Peleus and Thetis, the parents of Achilles, the goddess of discord, Eris, was not invited. Angered by this, Eris threw a golden apple among the guests, inscribed with the words "to the fairest." This sparked a fierce competition between three goddesses: Hera, goddess of marriage and power; Athena, goddess of wisdom and war; and Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. They asked Paris to decide who was the fairest of them all. Each goddess offered him a bribe. Hera promised him power and dominion over all of Asia. Athena promised him wisdom and victory in all battles. Aphrodite promised him the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen of Sparta. Paris, enamored by beauty, chose Aphrodite. This decision, though seemingly innocent, set off a chain of events that would lead to one of the greatest conflicts in Greek mythology. Hera and Athena, offended by Paris' decision, became bitter enemies of Troy. As part of Aphrodite's reward, Paris traveled to Sparta where he met Helen, the wife of King Menelaus. Helen was renowned as the most beautiful woman in the world. With the help of Aphrodite, Paris seduced or kidnapped Helen, accounts vary, and took her back to Troy. This abduction was not just a personal affront to Menelaus, but a cause for all of Greece to unite under his brother Agamemnon, in a massive military campaign to bring Helen back and avenge the insult to their honor. This was the beginning of the Trojan War, an epic conflict that would last 10 years. Although Paris' actions ignited the war, he was not a skilled warrior. His older brother Hector was Troy's mightiest defender and a far more respected figure. Paris was often criticized for being more concerned with Helen and his pleasures than with fighting for his city. In fact, he was often seen as a coward on the battlefield. At one point, Paris and Menelaus fought in single combat to determine the fate of Helen. Menelaus easily overpowered Paris, but before he could kill him, Paris was whisked away by Aphrodite and brought to safety, much to the anger of the Greeks. As the war dragged on, Paris eventually met his fate. The Greeks had a hero named Philoctetes, who wielded the bow and arrows of Heracles, Hercules, which were said to be poisoned. Paris was struck by one of these arrows and was mortally wounded. Dying, Paris returned to Mount Ida, where he sought out the nymph Oenone, who had been his lover before he met Helen. Oenone had the power to heal any wound, but feeling betrayed by Paris' abandonment of her for Helen, she refused to help him and he died.